Welcome back to On the World Plays Out of the Park Baseball 21. As well, this is our Chicago Dynasty, but this is going to be our 20-year recap. And wow, do we have a lot of retirements this year. This sheet has been like 10, 12 players the past couple of seasons. There's everybody here. So we'll take a quick dive into some of these guys here. Joe Batten. He played for us for a brief period in time. He was around 15 years. He collected 876 hits. Not really anybody. He was just kind of a guy who hung around. After we traded him away, he started for a few years for probably one of the St. Louis franchises. Let's see. Anybody else stand out? We look at hits. Davey Force, 2,319 hits. He was arguably the best player in the National League there for a 4-year stretch. I mean, a pretty strong player for what? I mean, the first couple of years, but at least 1875 to 1882, probably one of the best players in the league. So he had a really strong run. Yeah, he's going to make the He should make the Hall of Fame. An 87.5 WAR. Yeah, that will do it. Let's see. Anybody else? 1,000 hits for Jack Manning. So he's going to be a fascinating one because he's actually a true two-way player. I mean, he won 130 games. And then he also collected 1,000 hits. Not a very good hitter, though. Led the league in strikeouts one year. That's usually not the one category you want to lead in. So, interesting for him. Let's see. Coming down, Steve Brady. He got 1,000 hits. Oop, I clicked Charlie Barber. Charlie Barber's not really anybody. Steve Brady, a decent player. He got what? It looks like there's a couple of 3 best fielders, a Silver Slugger, 2-time championship winner, 2-time All-Star. Like, he's not an insignificant player. I mean, I don't think he fits in that Hall of Fame category. Yeah, he led in games started. That's not an important one. And hit by pitch. Great. Those are the ones you love. Let's see. Lou Say collected 1,000 hits. He was a player I think we wanted at one point in time. And he was not a very good player, but he got a lot of at-bats. Minus 14 WAR for his career. That is actually pretty impressive when you think about it. That is really impressive. Let's see, coming on down. So our 2 retirees, we got Mike McGeary, who played, I mean, he was 4 years in Chicago, but really that was not where his career was. His career was spent in New York, where he was a pretty good player for a while. Career 285, 1,500 hits, 32 WAR. Like, his career basically up till here, from 1871 to 1882, was a pretty solid career. Even here, 1883. And after that, he became a part-time player who bounced around. We used him as a bench bat. Really a good player overall, but he'll be an interesting Hall of Fame case. Chaim, obviously, he was one of our best players early on. He collected 2,200 hits. Kind of fell off there the last couple of years when his fielding went. But career 335 hitter, he hit 400 3 times. Worth 54 WAR, so, I mean, he's definitely going to go in, especially because he was a catcher. Let's see. Coming on down through our hitters. Nobody else really stands out. Pitchers, you have Joe Borden, 81 and 165, but at 2.82 ERA. He just looks like a bad luck pitcher. He just was always on bad teams. I mean, he was pretty good. Not great. he won't make the Hall of Fame, but he'll get votes here and there. Jack Manning threw 2,200 innings. I mean, he's going to get a few votes, 20 WAR, but never anything truly dominant. I mean, I think for pitchers, you want to see something like 6 or 7 at their peak. Because what are we looking at here? We're looking at 3-time best fielder, 2-time best hitter, 2-time All-Star. I mean, you don't get excited about that. And Tommy Bond, I mean, he had some really good years. He had a really nice stretch in there. But, I mean, that's, first off, he played 13 years. He had 13 years of service. But his last season he played was 1883. He was riding somebody's bench after that. So those are our recently retired players. So I think it's time to go look at our league history, history index. So here is who has won kind of the state of the leagues. So as the Chicago White Stockings, we have had a very nice run here. We are presently coming off of 3 consecutive titles, or pennants, and 6 pennants in 8 years. Unfortunately, we only won 2 World Series in that time. But we have been the best team in the American League. I mean, that in 1886, we got steamrolled. That was just a great Boston year. The attendance was down this past year to 276. But our payroll was down too. That's crazy. We have been the dominant National League team. There's a Boston run. There's a little Providence run in there. In the American League, it's been Philadelphia Athletics, Boston, Cleveland, briefly, and then the Athletics again. I mean, it's really been a tale of 2 teams. It's been the White Stockings and the Athletics have kind of dominated everything. So let's go check out our leaderboards because I think these are always fun. So career batting average, that's going to go to Ross Barnes. I don't think that will ever change. He's hitting 380 for his career. And we'll jump in. I think because hits is actually the more fun one because he crossed the 3,000 hit threshold. And he's still active. He is one of the OGs that is still playing the game. He is 40 years old, still a Gold Glove caliber second baseman. I mean, this is just silliness here. 13-time MVP, 14-time Gold Glove, 16-time Silver Slugger, 4-time Playoff Series MVP, 5-time championship winner, and 19-time All-Star. Question is, what year didn't he make the All-Star team? That's pretty crazy. And he's at 3,100 hits, so he has stretched that out. Anson's gotten to 2771, so he's 2 years away from crossing 4,000. He's still, the decline is starting to happen. You can see the glove isn't as strong as it once was with him. The batting's not as good, but he still racked up 168 hits. Still worth 6.6 WAR. I mean, but he's not the dominant force, the MVP every year. I mean, he's only got 7 MVPs, 13 Gold Gloves, 12 Silver Sluggers, 3 playoff MVPs, 8 championship winners, and 17-time All-Star. I mean, that's just silliness between him. Paul Hines, those 2 are OGs that are still playing. Paul Hines came in 1 year later. He's 35. His decline is happening a little bit faster. I mean, he might get to 2,500 hits, but it's looking a little sketchy. Jim O'Rourke, 2,300. He's 40. He can't field. So I think it is over for him. He's got 1 more year left in him, but unfortunately it's not going to happen. So we saw Davey Force Hyam retired. Levi Mayrill, 2,200 hits, still playing. He's 41. He's coming back. Can't really play defensively, but he's coming off a monster season where he hit 365 at 41. He was worth 4 wins. He led the league in home runs. Completely crazy. Pike is retired. Ezra Sutton is still active from the beginning. He is also 41. Not really playing defensively anymore. I don't think he's going to rack up too many more hits. I mean, at this point, we're looking at a lot of old guys. And rounding out the top 10, Fred Dunlap, still active. He's only been active for 10 years, though. And he is a great second baseman, so he's got a long way to go there. And can probably be a pretty dominant player here for a while. Yeah, I mean, look at that. He had some pretty impressive seasons there. 10 WAR during that season. He hit 351. So he's going to make a good run at some of those records. Kind of that next group of active guys. You got Pebbly Jack Glasscock. Still a good defensive player. You know, making the chase is for 3,000 is going to be a little rough for him. He's probably on the edge. George Gore, 33 as well. I think it's going to be tough for him. The defense is going to probably take him out faster. But in 10 years, he's racked up 1,700 hits. And then, let's see. John Clapp, not going to make it. He's going to be 39. He came in the 1872 season. He has been a part-time player now for 6-7 years. But still, if you need a backup catcher, not a bad guy to have. So, that's always a fun one. Home runs for a career. So right now it's Anson at 142. You can see some guys who are engaged. Fred Mann is at 90. I don't know if he'll make it. I don't know if he hits for a high enough average. And his defense is a little shaky. You got Roger Connor at 85. I mean, he's still playing good ball. But he's going to need some monster years to get there. You know, that's 10 a year for like 5 years. He'd be better off keeping his mouth shut. Okay. All these first basemen. And then come our guys. Sam Thompson also has 85. He is 30. He is on a complete tear. I mean, he's hit, 57 in the last 3 years, so it's not inconceivable he tracks down Anson. And then you got Dan Brothers, I don't think he'll be able to make that chase. His defense has started to go downhill, and I think that's going to be the biggest thing with him, is it's going to limit him in his ability to continue to be an everyday player. He'll be a great bat off the bench for somebody for a while. Let's see. Then we're looking at somebody like Ned Williamson, who can't hit the ball anymore. I mean, that's ugly. Those are a lot of numbers below 200. Kerry Stovey, I mean, he has not hit them since he came over, but we got him more for a bench bat, so understandable. I mean, those are kind of the big sexy ones. I mean, home run for a season. 23 right now is the record. Thompson, Jocko Milligan, and Anston have also hit 20. So, and Thompson's also got a 19 and an 18. So those guys, that's a number to shoot for. We're actually ahead of, I think, Major League Baseball at this point in time. Actual Major League Baseball at this point in time. Career RBI, this is also kind of a fascinating one. I mean, it's Anston and Barnes. Pike, Mayrill, O'Rourke, I mean, it's all these same guys that we've seen. George Gore is active, 33 on the chase, but a long way off. stolen bases for a career, Paul Hines has put up some bonkers numbers, 819. And he's still got enough speed that he stole 25 bases at 35. But he's past Barnes and Anson, who both have some good numbers. But then it's going to be some of these other guys. Hub Collins, he's 26. He had 145 that 1 year. He got caught 50 times. I mean, he basically just took off every time he got on base. That is crazy. Often loafs it. I would disagree if you steal 145 bases. Jim Keenan, he's going to be a little bit longer in the tooth. He's a catcher. Wow. Considered a team leader and has a great knowledge of the game, but he has a questionable work ethic. Now that is fascinating to see. Some of these younger guys. Pat Deely, 1884, 413 since he came into the league. A 111 and a 96. Those will do it. He just has to get on base. That's his biggest problem. I mean, Brothers has racked up 416. I mean, he's collected. He had some great years. So, I mean, that year was going to stand out, I think. Who are some of these other guys? I mean, look, Dick Hyam shows up 27th with 345 stolen bases. He just kind of collected. He had a 42 and a 31, but he was 20 a year. Got caught a lot, too. So those are the big hitting ones. Over on pitching, this is where it gets a little wonky. So career wins. Jim Britt has taken that over. He's at 448. Which is just silly. And he's still one of the best pitchers at 34 in the league. Bobby Matthews retired a few years ago. He sat at 405, but that was never going to last. The next three guys are all in the Hall of Fame. And so Cy Bentley is the next active pitcher, but I wouldn't say he's really that active. Let's see. Anybody else over 200? Corcoran. So for us, he's coming off leading the league in wins, surprisingly. He hasn't been a great pitcher, but I mean, ERA plus is, I mean, he's a league average pitcher, just on a team that can hit and score runs. If he gets enough outs, it can work. He does not hold runners. That could be a problem. But, so, where's Corcoran? He's at 222, so he should be able to get to 300. Dick McBride, also Hall of Famer. A lot of pitchers who made it in. Tony Mullane, still active. He was traded this past year, if I remember correctly. And it has not looked great for a couple of years, but he's hanging on. Let's see. Stump Weidman, also 10 years in the league. Not looking as great anymore. And Gegas, I mean, he's still young and dominant, but it's definitely, yeah, actually, he can still put up some big numbers. I mean, he's put up crazy numbers, but it's not as crazy. The league is catching up. Same with Charlie Hodnett. I mean, the league is starting to catch up to these guys, but it's still really interesting. Let's see. John McMullen, Ed Morris. Yeah, he's 27, still pitching well. Just under 200 wins. Old Hoss Radbourne. I don't think it's as good for him. I think it's gotten pretty ugly and ugly fast for him. Yeah. I mean, he pitched okay for a while, but it... Whew. Charlie Sweeney looks really good. He's 27 and just a complete stud at the moment. So you can see there's some guys who are starting to rack up wins. Saves is pretty low. ERA for their career. This belongs to Jim Britt. Gegas. It's a lot of these really active guys. Still active guys, and so some of those guys, those numbers will go down as the season drags on. Yeah, wins above replacement. Jim Britt 157. That's just insane. Let's see. Accomplishments. Let's run through these. Nobody's had a 3 home run game. Sam Thompson tried. He had a couple of 2 home run games. Yeah, 6 hits have become quite a bit rarer since scores are not as bonkers. It's starting to look more like modern baseball now. In the last 3 years, there were only 3 of those games. Tom Burns had one. 6 for 6, 4 RBIs. I don't think we highlighted him at all. He's now playing for the Milwaukee Brewers, or some version of them. Not really a great player, but somehow he did it. Ross Barnes, who is great, and Duke Farrell, who's playing left field. So-so player. 15 strikeouts in a game. There's only been 2 of them so far. Toad Ramsey had a 15 strikeout game in the last 5 years, and he is a pretty good pitcher too in this era. Now he's been a little bit on the decline there. That was an ugly year he just finished, but he's still young. He can turn it around. Cycles. These happen occasionally. I mean, they're happening a little more frequently now that there are home runs. So people like George Wood got one. Fred Mann, we have not talked about him. Plays first base for the Louisville Colonels. An above average starter. He's got a couple of all-star appearances, so good for him. Fennelly had one for us, and John Cairns had one against us. One of these guys who's not really a regular, but he gets a decent number of starts as a catcher. No hitters, again. It's a decent list. Since our last check-in, we had Jersey Backley threw one for us, which one of the rare ones I've ever had. He is now just all over the map as to where he belongs. He just never developed. He's one of those flash-in-the-pan guys. He had the 1 year where he was 22-6, and the rest of the time, it just has not worked for him. Great minor league pitcher, though. Toad Ramsey, we talked about. Charlie Sweeney, he's dominant. He's got the no-hit stuff, so he could throw one any day. Gegas, we've talked about ad nauseum. Ed Dugan for the Reds. For the Boston Reds. He has not been... I don't think they've supported him more than anything else. There's some ugly years, but he's been a pretty good pitcher for them. No 50-plus home run seasons, no 150 RBI seasons, 20-plus win seasons. This happens all the time. Triple crowns. There have been a few. Sam Thompson got both of them. Had 2 of them for us. He got the first batting Triple Crowns. First and second. And Bob Black got one pitching. Milestones. So, yeah, those are all out there. I mean, 2,000 hits, 2,000 strikeouts, things like that. Hitting streaks. So this is anything over 20. There's a 37 for brothers. But they've become, harder to come by. It's hard to get that many. Yeah, there's a 42 for Merrill. I think that's the record right now. I mean, early on, you know, you could get them pretty easily, but awards, yeah. So there are all of, so that's been the history so far. So what we'll be doing in our next video is we'll be going through and kind of talking how we built the team 20 years in. How did we get to this place? And did we win any of these trades? And looking at our roster before we embark on the second 20 years. But I do thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.